reason for being, for me, has always been to change the world for the better. And it is very important for me in my whole being to make things better and to help people feel better and be better. I genuinely have compassion for people and their suffering, right? And I have this drive to comfort people and make those in need feel better. And I generally dislike suffering. Whereas personally, I don't mind physical suffering in any way when it's hardship, and that's why I love mountaineering. I love challenging myself, gym. I love hiking strenuously. I like working hard in the field in my entrepreneur company that is nature conservation, etc. But the mental suffering, the spiritual suffering, I think is very, very sad to see. And it's very widespread in today's world. And we have so many things, so many great things that we have done and developed and society has built into. And there's seriously never been a greater time to be a human being on this world than today in historical manners, right? And yet we still have wars, yet we still have terrorism, yet we still have horrific crimes where people do unspeakable things to each other. We still have slave trade, right? We still have child molestation. And for me, it's such a conundrum. It is like unbelievable that in this enlightened world that we live in with so much comfort and so many great things, it is like, oh, since I have everything, let me make somebody else suffer so I can feel some sort of joy. And it's kind of like, because life has become so good that we kind of like needs to balance it off with something bad. And the way we balance it off with something bad for most people is to go on social media and dump their discomfort, their load of shit on someone else, right? By negative statements and negative comments, which is kind of unbelievable. Why you actually would go to somebody else's social media profile or their post to comment negatively. Now, if you want to educate them more or you feel that they're wrong, you can engage in a dialogue with them about why you think what they posted or said was wrong. That's a whole different thing. That's a conversation. But people go right online. You're an idiot. You're stupid. Or fuck you. Or I hate you or something. You'll go to hell. I love that one. That's a Christian thing. And why I'm going into this is a few weeks ago, I was sitting at a cafe working on my coaching practice. And I was with a very close family member that I really enjoy and admire. As we were sitting in this cafe, there were 3 restaurant cafes next to each other on this seafront. And we sat down the one that was empty because I was thinking, hey, here we'll get some quick service. And we did get quick service and fine service, but we were the only ones there. But the other 2 were kind of bustling. They were at half capacity or something in this middle of the afternoon. And I watched this chief waiter, which was also the kitchen, come in and out of our restaurant, serve us, right, in this cafe. And after a while, I stopped with my computer working, and I said to my family member, like, this guy, he really needed to do more sales. He needed to be out here and introduce people and say to people walking by, hey, would you like our menu? Would you like things? And blah, blah, blah. This is so poorly managed, I think, this cafe, It's like, why are they not doing more to attract people to fill up? And my family member said to me, like, hey, Dan, we're sitting here positively. Why are you thinking about negative things? And what do you care? I mean, that's you shouldn't be in that mindset. You shouldn't think about him. And I just had to stop and pause and say, excuse me. But I think that point is exactly what's wrong with the world, that we don't care. Because what I was seeing was a person that was trying to run a cafe or restaurant, right? And he's probably a solopreneur. He's in there running his business. And believe me, that guy was feeling the pressure. He's going to feel stressed. He's going to feel anxious. He's going to have anxiety at high levels because he's watching the competitor earn money. He's not earning money, but he still have expenses. So it was really my care for him, my compassion for how I realized he was feeling, even if he was putting on the fake smile and coming to serve us. Clearly, he cannot be happy, right? And it is because I do care about people, because I want people to be happy. And the main problem is actually getting people to do the things they need to do to be happy. Because happiness is not a natural thing. It is not a natural state in this world. And I would like you to look at the nature and how it evolves. It is a very, very scary place. Nature is brutal and violent. The universe is created in chaos, right? And we, as human beings, are the ones setting order to things, right? And that's why order out of chaos is where we find real joy. And the truth is, like, when people say to me, oh, I love nature, but reality, what they mean is, I like organized nature, like a park, right? Because if you go to a wild forest, it's not very comfortable. It is full of all sorts of insects, first of all, that wants to suck the lifeblood out of you, or bite you, or sting you, or anything, you know. It is full of thorns and thistles and nettles and branches with that's crouching onto you or holding into you. You can hardly move through it. You can't see it for leaves and undergrowth and everything. When people say, oh, I love to be in the forest, what they mean, they actually like to walk on a path, which is not natural, on a path in a foliated forest with leaf trees that are tall, and the branches have been cut off long, so they have high stems and then a crown above, which is up there somewhere, and the undergrowth have been cleared, and you can see the nice leaves and the little plants, and you're like walking along there, and that's enjoyable, right? That's enjoyable. And maybe a deer in the distance that is actually in a park, and there's a fence around this whole forest, right? Because otherwise the deer would hide when they saw you. That is the kind of nature people like, because the other nature is scary. The real nature can be very scary, right? Now we can go out into it, but most of us do not like to live in it. And that is a fact too. That's why we build houses or caves and shelters and fires. And because we know that out there it's dangerous. And this is, I think, one of the roles that human beings have, is to care for nature. And we can make nature better, right? It is in our personal nature to make life better, to make ourselves better. And in order to create that change, we need the courage to do something about the problem we see. Real problems, not something we see as a problem because they have a different view than us, but because it is not functioning. When you see somebody's life that is not functioning, or they are sad or depressed or anxious or whatever, then you should care about causing a change. If they have a different political view or a different life philosophy than you, that's a whole different subject. That's their choice. You shouldn't interfere in that, right? If you are asked to engage, you can engage, but don't just interfere in people's life philosophies. It's not necessary. That will come in time. But if people want to have a dialogue, then by all means, present your case, your facts, listen to their facts and their experiences, and then you share, and then you both grow, and then you can change or not change. That's your choice. But care about people. And that's why, as a transformational life coach, that is my raison d'etre, my reason for being a transformational life coach, because I like to transform people's lives. I love this ultimate performance lifestyle. For me, represents the fact of mind, body, and spirit. The mind, body, spirit, the three key elements of my life philosophy. It's basically that you need to maintain your mental health, and you need to challenge your mind with new education and new growth, and you need to watch videos you don't like. You need to read books that are discomforting, because you need to challenge your status quo and your comfort zone mentally, and that develops a happiness, that develops an understanding of where you are, and you can better figure things out, what you believe, where you believe it, right? And once you do that, then you will feel much more confident. You will have greater self-esteem, etc. And the reason I push then for courage is because courage comes from the mind, and courage comes from doing and learning and finding out who you truly are. And once you have that courage, then you are able to step into the world and start doing something about the things that are wrong, mentioning what is wrong, standing up for what is right, for what is just. And standing up for what is right and just is always to protect human rights, to have compassion on other human beings and seeing them as yourself or a reflection of yourself, right? As a transformational life coach, my agenda is to have a positive impact on the world through motivating, inspiring, and empowering people worldwide, like this video. And that is what you see me post all the time. So whether you agree with that or not is up to you. Then you don't follow. But if you agree with it, then please do follow me and click like. And I will keep doing this because that is my reason for being. And this video may be long, but there is a reason for it being long. I have learned through my, well, by now, 23 years of international careers on 4 continents and 24 countries, where I have faced off with real challenges like Al-Qaeda and surveillance detections for the US Department of State, Mexican cartels when I was in Mexico, training police forces at the police academies there, riots Hong Kong and Macau when I was there, pirates, Somali pirates, and Singapore also. And I have faced, as a bodyguard, I have faced obstacles with stalkers and harassers and criminals, etc., potential terrorists as well. So I have been in very dangerous situations, and I have seen life being taken and participated in life being taken. I have seen lives snuffed out in front of me. I have seen brain and gutters from other people, and blood splatters and destruction and death in the face, right? I have endured hardship and pain. I have broken my neck and had a steel implantation between my vertebrae to keep me together, between C4 and C5 to be very specific. And those things have taught me a lot about life and compassion for people, because I have seen life at its extreme, right? I have seen it face to face with death and destruction and pain and suffering and misery. I have been to many third world countries and I'm distressed by the suffering that you see there, by the hardship, right? But I have also seen immense cruelty in the first world, right? The world that we live in, how cruel and indifferent we can be to other people. The level of injustice we have in many of our judicial systems, right? Our political process, everything, right? In our counselling culture that we are having now, where we don't like views that are different than our own, etc., etc., etc. We've become very indifferent to other people and very judgmental. And judgmental comes from a lack of compassion. In my opinion, it's okay to pass judgment. Judgment is part of life. You cannot move through life without passing judgment. You need to judge whether you go left or right, what's the right way to drive, what's the right way to do, what's the right way to eat, what's the right thing to do today, etc., what to say, etc. That's all judgment that's going on. Judgment is not negative. We turn it into something negative. Judgment is a natural part. But to be judgmental about other people's beliefs, ideas, philosophies without getting to know why they have them, that's wrong, right? If you want to judge other people's lifestyle or views or opinions, then that requires that you sit down and ask them and find out why they believe what they believe. What has caused them to become that person, right? What is it that what drove them to become that person, right? And as a former soldier, I started my life career being a soldier, and I had aspired my whole childhood to become a soldier. And it didn't take me many years to realize that that was really not where I wanted to be in reality, because the amount of judgmentalism there was there, and stupidity and lack of compassion and lack of understanding and a very rigid square-formed worldview for me was staggering. It was a stunning thing. I just couldn't believe this is going to go on and happening. And unfortunately, what we see, I wanted to join the army to protect people, to make the world better, to defeat evil, so to speak. But what you do realize after a while is that you're actually protecting evil, right? Because whenever there's tyranny in the world, it is always the police and the military that are the last ones to keep defending. They're the last ones to leave the tyrants, right? They keep protecting injustice. And I think it comes down to kind of like we say about a dog. And I'm not comparing people in uniform to dogs, but the thing with a dog where you say, the dog does not bite the hand that feeds it. And if you are a police officer or you are a soldier, you are getting paid by the state. And therefore, you protect the state because the state takes care of you, and therefore you have a positive image of the state, right? And the law enforcement, because they're on your side. However, if you have the ability to step outside your uniform, take it off and go on the other side and see what you do, which is what I had to do through my career, then you start to realizing that it's not black and white, the world, it's actually gray. And very often, those of us that were in uniform were on the wrong side. When I was a guard force commander in the US Embassy, I started teaching surveillance detection, how to detect the terrorist planning process. And I wrote a book about it, and I've been teaching a lot of courses about it. I took up a slogan where I said, "Behold without prejudice, then you shall see." And that became my sort of mantra in everything. Behold without prejudice, then you shall see. And for me, it was about if I stopped looking at my perceptions of a terrorist and started teaching my students not to have their perceived views of what a terrorist was, they were better able to detect the terrorist that was actually gathering information that may not look like the guy. Because it's not a guy with an AK-47 and a turban or something can run down streets screaming Allah Akbar. That's not how terrorism starts. That may be the end of terrorism, right? It could also be any other religion or any other person doing it. Like Roda May, for example, we've seen a lot of terrorism in Europe as well, right? But the point is, you need to detect while they're planning, while they're seeing, right? Therefore, I came with, behold without prejudice, then you shall see. But as I repeated this mantra every day to my students and to my colleagues and to people worldwide, that changed my life because I started actually believing it. I started living this. And then suddenly I started seeing the terrorist perspective. I took away my prejudices and I could start seeing, why is he doing this? I was asking about his ideology. I was questioning his ideology to try to understand how can I counter him by trying to understand who he is and where he's going. And as more as I did this, I actually came up to the fact that, well, I disagreed with the guy. I disagreed with how he carried out things and how he wanted to create political change. But he had a point. All of them had a point. And what I came to conclude also was that there is a reason why you become a terrorist or a criminal. I mean, have you ever asked a kindergarten kid, what would you like to be when you become old or big? And have you ever heard anyone say, oh, I want to be a criminal, or I want to be a terrorist, I want to be a suicide bomber? No, that doesn't happen. So something from that child in kindergarten to their adulthood, that distance between something terrible happened, that caused that child to go the wrong way, to lose their humanity in many ways, right? And become part of a ruthless nature that we have derived from and left behind. And so you need to learn to look at other people's perspective and figure out where they're coming from. Right now, we have a war going on between Russia and Ukraine with intermediaries, and there are casualties, civilian casualties on both sides. There are atrocities being committed on both sides. Clearly, one force invaded the other country. Clearly, there is a wrong, right? But then again, does a wrong justify another wrong? Always a question, right? There has to be balance. Second thing is that we're having a war in Gaza right now. And people can call it whatever they want to, but when you're using military forces, then it's a war, right? It is not an anti-terrorist operation, because that would be a police force, right? I would like to, anyone here in Europe, for instance, If we think about Basque separatists, or we think about the IRA when they were back in the 80s, for instance, 70s, 80s, etc., and all the way to the 90s, right? When they were big in Ireland, in the UK, you didn't see the British government carpet bombing Belfast, right? When we had the Manchester City bombings, we didn't see the British government say, oh, let's take out Belfast. Let's send in fighter planes and drones and attack soldiers and tanks and take it down. This is not how you deal with terrorism, because terrorism is a criminal act. It's not a military act. Hamas may function, but Hamas is not Palestine. It is a part of Palestine. It is a particular group within Palestine, just like Hezbollah or Al-Qaeda was not Afghanistan. They were part of Afghanistan, right? And just like cartels are not Mexico, triads are not China or Hong Kong, right? They're a part of that society. And that's the part you need to target. That's called police reform, right? So, but we are seeing this again and again. And right now we are divided between Israel and Palestine. Which one is right, which one is wrong? Yes, they did this and that counted that. But the point is, it doesn't solve to see things this way without compassion, right? Are there ideologies that are wrong? Absolutely. How do you make them better? Education. And I'm not meaning academic education. I mean education in the mindset, mind, body, and spirit. How to have a healthy mind. How to maintain a healthy body by living healthily and actively and eating good ingredients, good food products, etc., raw food products, anything that is natural, whole foods, etc. So you become healthy, right? Because that improves the hormone balance in your brain, because they work together. Your microbiome in your gut needs to get the right foods to produce the right hormones, so you feel better, right? And then you don't have anger, depression, anxiety issues, stress, whatever. And spiritually, we know from scientific study, it has nothing to do with me just being, oh, I'm religious and I'm an ex-pastor. No, it has to do with that actually believing in something greater than yourself has been proven to make you more happy, to live longer, and it reduces violence. Now, when you say that, oh, but religion has caused all these wars, yes, some people within religious groups have caused wars. Most of them are politically motivated though, and they promote an ideology that is not real, that is a perceived ideology in order to create some political impact, right? And to create change that is favorable to certain people, certain elites. And when we talk, for instance, very commonly in the Western world, bad about Islam, and Islam seriously has its problems, right? So did Christianity for several hundred years. Hundreds of years, even millennia, we can say we had problems. But Islam also has problems, but there's also great Islamic countries, right? If people talk about Pakistan, but we had female leaders. Benazir Bhutto was a leader. We have had female presidential leaders in many Asian Muslim countries, right? There is a whole different, what kind of Islam are we talking about? Yemeni Islam? Somali Islam? Are we talking about Malaysian Islam? Indonesian Islam? Which ones are we talking about? Are we talking about Iranian Islam? Are we talking about Iranian Islam before the revolution of Khomeini or after? Right? Are we talking about Afghanistani Islam? Are we talking about Islam in Afghanistan in the 60s, 70s, before the Russian invasion? Or are we talking about today under the Taliban? What is it we're talking about? Are we talking about the Turkish people who live over the lower Europe, which have been living here as immigrants and workers and now natives in European countries without any problems, although they're Islamic? Have that been a problem? Of course not, right? So it is not, again, the ideology that's a problem. It's how you define the ideology. And this is why we need to go back and ask, what is it that makes you so angry, so frustrated, so hateful, so vengeful, that you will do unspeakable acts to other people, that you will degrade, debase, kill, maim, destroy, decapitate other people, right? Other human beings. or carpet bomb them for that matter, or missile bomb them, or anything. Right? That is really the question here we need to ask ourselves. And that is why I care about the world, because the only way for us to fix this is to be engaged. And to be engaged, we need courage. And ladies and gentlemen, courage comes from self-confidence. And self-confidence comes from, one, self-respect. Doing the things you plan to do, you set out to do, you know you should do. That gives you self-respect. To self-respect comes your self-esteem, because now you feel good about yourself. You feel confident. You have done things and you can measure them, you can see them, and you come from your self-respect comes your self-esteem. You start thinking higher about yourself. When you think higher about yourself and better about yourself, then you are not subject to people's offenses, and you don't react offensively in the same way. Whenever you react very offensively to something, it's because you have low self-esteem. You can say whatever you want to, but that's down to it. You have low self-respect, you have low self-esteem. From that self-esteem comes the self-confidence. And out of the self-confidence comes the ability to be courageous. And when courageous comes the ability to change things and work for the better. And that's where I want to get to. And that's what I do as a transformational coach. I teach you to overcome your fears through a transformation of your mind, body, and spirit. That way that you are able to carry yourself in the world without fear of what other people are going to say, without living in fear of how people respond to a social media post or whatever you put out there, right? Or to your looks, or to your actions, or to your views on things. Right? Because you learn that you love yourself. And when you love yourself, you don't care if people disagree with you. You don't get offended because you have compassion for them. And when people get angry, you just sit and think, well, what happened to that person, right? What are you suffering? Can I help you? Because obviously there is, right? Because whenever we react with anger, resentment, fear, hate, depression, or anxiety, which comes from that, it's because we have something mentally wrong, right? There's a mental challenge to us that we're not feeling good about. And it's probably spiritual related. There is something, we're making a difference between our spirit and our mentality. It's because we don't do what we believe. We don't act on what we think, right? And that's where the discomfort comes in. And instead of taking it inside, we try to throw it at other people in a comfort. Or we build it inside until it explodes in some sort of anger and harassment, right? And then we do bad things and say bad things to other people. And very often to those who are near and dear to us. And then we alienate us even further, and we create a bigger ball of problems. So, mind, body, spirit, self-respect, self-esteem, self-confidence, all these things leads to the courage that you need to change the world for the better. If you want to be on a path with me to change the world for the better, to have a positive impact on the world, through motivating, inspiring, and empowering people worldwide, then please join me, help me, stand with me, stand against me when I'm wrong, etc. But together, let's make this world a better place. Let's make you happy, right? Let's find your spot where you're happy, because only when you are happy can you make other people happy. Only when you are confident can you make other people feel confident about themselves. Only when you love yourself can you teach other people to love themselves and help them love themselves. So start working on yourself with me today, right? Today. Do a favor, try to go online and post 3 positive comments on someone else's wall, right? Make a positive impact on the world. Say good morning to people when you're out on the street. Say good day, good evening, whatever you want. Say hi, nice jacket, nice crown, like your haircut, anything, right? Make a positive impact and see what will happen in return, right? Get up in the morning, do something for yourself. If you can, take time every day for yourself. You need to do it. It's not if you can, but the time on when you can, then you need to fit that into your schedule. Take time for yourself every day, right? That's necessary. And once you do that, you will become empowered. Once you do these things, you will feel the empowerment grow and you'll become better and better at doing things. So that's my long message today on this beautiful sunny day here. And I'm in Poland, again, visiting family, and it's a fantastic place to be. It's a bustling economy. And it also has their problems. And we're right next to Ukraine, and they really feel the war. There's a lot of tension goes on here. There's a lot of Ukrainian refugees here. But it's also a place where things are being built and done and created. They also have negative aspects of their culture, like everyone else. I come from Denmark, and Denmark is probably one of the it's considered one of the best places to live, one of the top 10 countries in the world in all aspects, except in success. When it comes to be successful or to care for other people, we don't care about other people in Denmark anymore. Why? Because we have a system to do it for us. So we just think, surely there must be some system. Oh, go away. The system will take care of you. That's why I pay my taxes, isn't it? But see, that's the wrong way. You can never just pay someone else to take care of a problem. You need to be part of the solution to the problem. And that's, of course, in my opinion, one of the unfortunate events of a tax system or a social system that takes care of people by law and regulation, but not by compassion, not by empathy, but by law and decree. Because then you start looking at them as a burden, all the weak people, those who need help. And you start thinking, oh, I paid my taxes. Someone else needs to take care of it. That creates a problem. Then we don't have society. When we don't have society, culture, and close-knit bonds, family bonds, cultural bonds, social bonds, then we lose face with the humanity, and we lose our compassion, and we lose our empathy, and we become cold, and we put up hedges and wall and shades in front of our windows, and we close the doors, and we lock our keys and have double locks and chains on our doors because we are in fear. And that is not a happy country. So when people say, my country, oh, we're one of the happiest countries in the world, and we're Denmark. But is that true? Because we also have the youngest age of alcoholism, right? Of use of alcohol. We have a very high levels of depression, of anxiety, of stress, of all sorts of social lifestyle diseases, right? And we're having a huge problem. We have disparity in incomes. We have a lot of people on social welfare, right? Does that go together with being happy? We're having a high use of antidepressives, anxiety medicine, etc. Does that go together with being the happiest country in the world? Of course not. So again, there's a disparity. There's what we say, and then there's what we do. And those things do not align, which is why we're having problems. We see a lot of problems in Nordic countries today, Scandinavian countries, etc., societal problems, because there's a disparity between what we say and what we do. And that is the key to happiness, that when you say what you do and you do what you say, then you have happiness, right? Then you find self-respect, self-esteem, self-confidence. So make sure that you actually do what you say you believe, that you actually do what you say you do, right? Don't just make a statement about it. So, Dan Sommer, checking out, wishing you all a great day. Go there, live courageously,